Hey guys, so I put together a video. For several months this year, it looked like that streaming was not going to happen. It did turn out that it was going to happen, so a lot of the video is maybe a little bit moot, but I think it's really important that we address some of these points and why streaming is important so that if it ever happens again that they decide that cutting the stream might be a good idea, there would hopefully be some sort of violent backlash. A lot of people don't seem to understand why streaming is important. And I think this video highlights a lot of the reasons why it is important and why they don't need to cut it. And it's not something that's a cost issue. Like I said before, they were extremely close to cutting it this year. It looked for a few months like there wasn't going to be a stream. And really, at the very last minute, they decided to institute a stream. But it's very clear that the people in charge of nationals don't think that the stream is important. And I think that for that reason, I made this video to talk about that, why streaming is actually very important. So, hey guys. So today I want to talk about streaming, particularly streaming at the National Scrabble Championship. So I don't know how many of you have heard about this, but this year there's going to be no stream at the Nationals. As you can guess, my reaction about this is not positive. It's not even close. Like, I don't even know what they're doing. Like, just in what conceivable world do you have any hope of ever attracting somebody under the age of 50 if you're going about the way that you're going? It's just ridiculous. I mean, they're not even trying to attract anybody at this point. They're just happy losing 100 people a year, and, they have no marketing plan. The only thing that they had that had anything remotely to do with marketing was this, and it doesn't matter because they don't set up the stream. They don't plan the stream. They don't ask the people who run the stream how they can make it better. They don't plug their own network. There's no way that anybody who has any interest in Scrabble could ever figure out how to ever play a tournament or join a club or anything like that. They have 15 or 20 minutes of dead airtime between every single one of them, and they have no social media outreach whatsoever. And yet, so I guess for the stream, it doesn't do any good for them right now because they don't know how to run a stream. They never watched a stream in all reality. They probably never watched Twitch. They just don't have any clue. They have no interest in actually talking to the people who are watching the stream because, how many people have actually looked at the VODs? How many people even know what a VOD is in Scrabble? And it's just nothing. So they're just like, well, we don't know what we're doing, so let's just stop trying to do anything. Let's just let everything run into complete shambles, and that's just okay. Look, I get that you don't know what you're doing. We all know that you don't know what you're doing. But you have to at least try, and at least talk to the people who actually do know how to run a stream. Talk to the people who know how to run a tournament. Talk to the people who know how to run an event. There are lots of other events besides Scrabble that you can talk to who have people who've been running those things for years. And you can figure out how to actually attract people, how to actually use the stream as a marketing tool, how to actually get revenue from a stream. Because actually there are people in Scrabble who would actually advertise on a stream. And I'm sure people outside of Scrabble, I'm sure Hasbro would run something. I would run something. I run a book. I'll run something. Sam might run something. Lots of people could run things that go on a stream, but you don't have any interest. You could sell things. You could sell memberships in all likelihood. You could run interviews. You could do all sorts of things. You could run video packages. You could give information. You could run anything that you ever wanted to run. You could run something. But no, let's just not even bother. Let's just... And they keep saying they can't afford it. First of all, let me tell you what you can't afford. You can't afford losing 100 players every game that are contributing 25,000 or so in revenue. You're losing like 10% of your revenue every freaking year. You certainly can't afford that. Much more than you can't afford the stream. And you could afford to cut many, many other things besides the stream, by the way. There are lots of things that we can afford to cut. Streaming is not one of them. Advertising is not one of them. Customer acquisition costs are not one of them. Those are your business videos. By the way, there's no YouTube video of anything. There's no VOD. There's no anything. There's no way of using the stream that we created to create some sort of customer acquisition, which is something that's also very important. But look, there's just none of that. There's no using prior VODs to actually try to get people involved.
So now that I've finished my rant and I've had time to cool off a little bit, I'm going to talk to you about the stream with Jackson because clearly we need to have the Nationals without a stream. The stream just costs way too much money, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty much that stream is like responsible for the entire $35,000 deficit, right? Yeah, I guess not. So let's go through the revenue first. Last year's revenue was 88,000.
It's been
That's
shrinking every
63,000
year.
from entry fees.
Yeah, 63 from entry fees,
And
which is lower than ever, and 25,000 from Hasbro. Notice we're not talking about how to grow revenue. We're only talking about how we need to cut money.
so right now, our current expenses from last year's nationals, or in general, we got prizes, which equal to what, $52,000.
Yep.
And then staff salary, we have 37,000. Well, that's not just staff salary; it's staff salary plus the lodging and their meals and their travel. That's $37,000.
That's almost the prize pool.
So yeah, it's almost a prize pool. Staff are like the biggest winners at nationals. That's why I worked staff twice.
I'm a top player. I want to be staff. My goal isn't to win nationals. My goal is to be part of staff.
Yeah, it's the best. So then we got supplies and shipping, $6,000. And then player benefit. Oh, the best part, even better than the $52,000 in prizes, is the player benefits, the player gifts and T-shirts, $10,000.
Yep.
I know people love their T-shirts. Like, if there was no T-shirts, I'd probably go to like one nationals every 10 years.
Yeah, that bag that they give you before national starts with that score sheet and the racks and all that sort of stuff. That's 4 times as much as the stream.
Are $122,000 versus $88,000 revenue, which is a $34,000 deficit.
Yes.
So that's what we're working with.
Yep. 10K is mandated by Hasbro, and the books part of it is mandated by Merriam-Webster. So for me, places to cut. Reduce the divisions from 4 to 3.
That's a big thing for sure. We don't need 4 divisions.
You don't need 4 divisions. It probably would only cut, realistically, maybe 8 or 10K out of the budget. Not even that, probably. If you cut one division, it maybe will, it'll actually, the majority of that will actually be staff costs that you're cutting, not really prizes.
Yeah, prizes, honestly, ideally, we could even get prizes bigger based on the huge other cuts you could make.
Right, which we'll go into.
So yeah, the new budget we propose is $50,000 for prizes.
I think that's...
So yeah, NASPER doesn't need to worry about it that much.
Right.
Then we got staff.
Yeah.
All Hasbro non-prize money must be spent on staff.
Right.
So it's about $15,000 that Hasbro mandates must be used on staff.
Yes.
Yeah, so we got staff costs currently account for more than 40% of our revenue. Right. That's pretty crazy.
The winner of the lowest division makes about as much money as the cost of staff.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. All staff receive free meals, about $100 per person, and a $500 stipend. That stipend, I think, might change because it kind of includes lodging. That you get like a smaller stipend, but a free hotel room. Anyways, also, I've received these free staff meals. They are really nice, but they are far from necessary, especially for the amount they are per plate. It's like $30 a plate or something ridiculous.
So when you go to like an esports event or like a chess event or something like that, they have these sorts of things, and they don't cost anywhere near this much money. And people actually try to stay at affordable places. People don't like expensive venues because a lot of times they can't afford expensive venues, even though a lot of these games have a lot more money than Scrabble does.
And we can save so much money by having fewer staff because we have, what you said, it was 32 staff or something.
Yeah.
And we could cut that easily, probably 18 staff, because we don't need all these division assistants to input the data. We can just have computers to do that. I don't really know why we don't have that in general yet.
I mean,
it's too hard to do.
So we have 2 people who actually run Scrabble. We have one person who's supposed to be the technology guy, and we have one person who's supposed to be like the leadership guy. One way that you could save costs in a lot of different aspects is to just use a program and have everybody put in all their results, check in online, do all that sort of stuff, which is really not difficult technology to create. Yes, it's a little bit time-consuming, but if your job is doing technical expertise and being the computer manager for the entire company, you should be able to do that fairly easily.
There's just a lot of ways to cut staff. Like, it is nice to have a lot of staff, but at the same time, we're not at the point where we can afford like luxurious staff and all these luxurious meals like we are on a budget for nationals. No one would be very angry if we had 18 staff. That would be totally fine.
Right, and one of the things you could do as a leadership, as somebody who actually runs a tournament, is you could actually go to other games that have to put on events. Because it's not like Scrabble's the only game that has to put on, 400 or 500 player events. Every game has to put on 400 or 500 player events. Why don't you ask them how to cut staff, or how to spend money on staff, and how to allocate your expenses, and how to negotiate venues? Because there are lots of people who have lots of experience in all different capacities of having to pull this off.
Yeah, Doge assistants can help with more things.
Right.
Yeah, and the big thing, we don't need annotators and a stream.
Yeah.
Because I know we're arguing for a stream here, but it's also an argument against annotators. And at the very least, you should have one or the other. There's no reason to have both.
Right. I mean, you have four. Right now, you have 4 annotators. We have a stream on top of it.
I mean, it's totally not necessary.
If you take the average, you said you get $800 per annotator. That's $3,200. That's the cost of the stream.
Yeah, exactly.
Just have the stream and then have no annotators.
This whole video could be just that.
It's simple. But
yeah,
no.
And the stream is obviously way better than just having annotators. I mean, you could argue, annotators make it permanent because you have these things up forever. But the stream takes videos and posts the videos to YouTube, and it's just so much more exciting to see these things live rather than have to refresh your page every 2 minutes.
Right, and you
watching
can
the
get,
annotations.
and if you actually do the stream correctly, you can get revenue from the stream, and you can get revenue from the VODs, and you can get more people from the VODs, because a lot of people actually might be interested, but they either don't know about the event or don't have time, or become interested later.
Yeah.
And the VOD is really valuable on that level. So, anyway, moving on. Supplies and shipping.
The post office is the biggest winner of anyone at Nationals.
Yes. $6,200.
I don't even know what's normal for supplies and shipping, but it just seems like a lot of money.
It's actually $6,200 isn't actually that much in retrospect. I mean, one of the things you could do is you could actually hold the event in the same place, in which case this cost just disappears.
Well, I mean, and if we do that, then this whole slideshow disappears because everything becomes way cheaper and more efficient and everything. Yeah, we can cut a lot of this. It's just just not being so frivolous.
Venue costs are, it's all part of negotiating. I mean, all of this sort of stuff. And if you repeat the same city over and over again, I mean, I guess, I'm kind of harping on this too much because we don't have to do that. But, the venue gets cheaper exponentially. When Reno had tournaments, Reno would actually pay us to play there because they sold more hotel rooms.
That's pretty crazy.
So if you just take a big hotel or a fairly big hotel and put Nationals there, and then they get to sell out of hotel rooms if they're not a very crowded hotel in general, and you just explore a little bit, and you find a place that has a decent sized playing room, you could pull this off and have the vote, and have them actually pay us, or at least have the venue costs be literally zero because they're all negotiated through hotel costs. Or maybe you could actually have them discount the hotel rates, which would be an indirect way of repaying the players a little bit.
And this sort of plays into the whole notion of hiring someone or paying someone a few $1,000s to organize most of Nationals, to do this kind of stuff. Because negotiating a venue, it takes a lot of work, I'm sure, but it's obviously doable. And all it needs is someone who just puts in a bunch of work to do it, and they can be paid. They can be paid pretty nicely for that, and it would still be well worth their time.
Right, or an advisor from another game.
Just that also works for sure.
Go ahead.
Player benefits. I'm wrong. I was wrong in saying that staff is where we need to cut everything. Player benefits is probably show-wise the biggest cut.
Yeah. First of all, I call this, they talk about racks and they're like, oh, well, we're giving a discounted rate for racks and tiles and all this stuff. The way I like to think about it, or a different way to think about it, is you made a bad business decision because you made more racks and more tiles than you could sell. You don't get to pawn it off the players and say it's an expense when you make a mistake because you're supposed to be profiting off of those things. You're the one who placed the order for the racks and placed the order for the tiles so that you could redistribute them and sell them and make a profit.
Well, someone fucked up.
But since you guys made a mistake, you guys get to say, oh, well, we're pawning this off by giving it away and then passing it off as a cost.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought they were just I don't know, really deluded about.
I mean, and I like having T-shirts too, but every other place that makes T-shirts sells them at a profit.
Yeah.
It should be
That should
profitable.
be like a vendor table for T-shirts.
Right.
I find that actually the reception, I'm not like totally convinced. I mean, a lot of it's just sort of like a what you want out of nationals. Like if you want the like a reception, and if you want like the musicale and all those nice events and pay for them, it's kind of like a specific type of event you're going for. You're going for like a long, fun experience with all sorts of activities. And the reception's one of them. Like the reception's always a lot of fun. Everyone kind of gets drunk and just like reconnects because it's the first night before nationals. So like I always appreciate that.
Okay, so if you're talking about cutting the stream is a major part of the tournament. The reception costs significantly more than the stream does. The musicale is, an add-on event. If you're paying for the musicale but you can't afford a stream, you can't afford the Scrabble part of it, or you can't afford the actual Scrabble event, but you can focus on having like a good time, just making it a social event. It's just becoming more and more like a convention and less like a competition, which is just gradually what's been happening over the last 8 or 10 years. And if that's your business model, okay, but it's not a business model that's worked so far, because that's all you've been doing and you're losing customers.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like all these things compared to the value of the stream are like way off. Like the stream obviously adds way more value to the tournament.
Right, and I would like to see more of these things be Scrabble events and not just be like get-togethers. If you're going to be the National Scrabble Championship, why don't you have Scrabble at your event? I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. That's why people are there. That's why people paid the money to, get on a plane and buy a hotel room. And instead you have all these other events that have nothing to do with the game and have nothing to do with encouraging people in the game. All you're doing is enhancing people's vacation. Right, that's what you do with surplus. That's what you do past... Once you've covered your essential costs, like your stream, like the events that have to do with Scrabble, then you could start spending money on all these other nice things that are nice to have but not imperative. Streams are imperative. Broadcasting our game, marketing our game, that's imperative. Those are things that we need. Those are things that if they don't end up working, the entire organization collapses. And it's mind-boggling to me that people are more... It's more important for people to have all these little side benefits rather than worrying about the entire viability of the competitive scene or of the tournament scene. And when you take away streaming, when you take away any single form of marketing whatsoever, when you don't actually try to improve the game, at a time, mind you, when every other Scrabble organization, when MSI, when Causeway, when WESPA are all trying to invest more money and more time into making better streams, it's a real good indicator that you just have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah. And this brings us to our final slide, the participation fee, $6,500.
Also known as company profit.
Yeah, it's company profit, which is, I mean, it's weird because they have such a deficit as well. And they should really, because, I mean, we've made a new model, a new budget, which ends up with a surplus of almost $18,000. Right. And I mean, a lot of that $18,000 could go into prizes, or it could go into marketing, or it could make the stream even better. Like, it could go into a lot of things. It doesn't have to just be company profit. But hey, the moral of the story, that there's an easy way for NASPA to put on nationals as a great event, as a fun vacation for those who want it to be that, as a fun, great and competitive tournament, and they don't have to lose money. They don't have to sacrifice the stream.
Right. You could spend that $18,000, by the way, to do all of it. You don't have to cut all of this. You could spend some of these $18,000 and keep some of it. We're just talking about cutting costs right now. We're not talking about any sort of revenue generation whatsoever.
Yeah, this is half the